we've been spending a lot of time connecting with others, because if we're all working in isolation, what are we all going to learn and know?
G'day, I'm Deborah Caldo, and welcome to the Red Giraffe Solutions Expanding Worlds podcast, where we aim to support you as you help your young person with additional needs plan for their future. A future where they are safe, secure, and live a rewarding and fulfilling life. From around the world, I share stories and share solutions from people making this possible right now. I'm a parent of a young person with additional needs, so I understand the challenges. Many of the people I've interviewed on this podcast have already helped me design a better future for my daughter, and I hope that they might help you as well to imagine what's possible for your young person. If there's one thing I'd say to anyone supporting or working with a young person with additional needs is to please share. There's a reason I talk about sharing stories and sharing solutions on this podcast. The more we share, the easier it becomes for all of us. And really sharing is what every guest I've ever had on the podcast does. And I say this because this week's podcast is a perfect example of what happens when we share and the amazing things that can lead to. My guest is Andrea Randall-Smith, who's the CEO of Littlegate. And Littlegate is an organisation that, among other things, offers supported employment, supported internships, and things like that which enable young people to go into paid work. And Littlegate started, like many of the projects that I share on the podcast, because of parents who wanted better for their young person's future. Originally based on a farm, it not only offered opportunities to work with animals, but also in other roles, including catering and administration. But perhaps what Littlegate really offers most of all, as you'll hear from Andrea, is both inspiration and aspiration. So enough from me, let's hear from Andrea. Can we start off by talking a little bit about you and then also about Littlegate?
My name is Andrea and I work at Littlegate. I've worked there for 8.5 years, and I actually went to Littlegate's open evening. I've got a sister who's got a learning disability, so somebody had told me that a new organisation was opening up for people with learning disabilities and autism, and that I should go there and see what the project is. I've also got 3 children. My middle child, he's just recently had an autism diagnosis. I'm the main carer for my sister, even though she lives in a residential care home. I'm the person who organises her care, who questions her care if I don't think things are quite right. So going to this open evening really attracted me to be interested in the charity, because it was all about developing people, about people's aspirations, about really incredible support for parents and carers. My sister's a really big part of my life, and she attended Littlegate when it was first opened, so I got to know a bit more about what the organisation was trying to do. I hadn't quite understood at the beginning about the opportunities of employment, so I could see that it was a place for people to go to that was quite therapeutic, to support people to develop their skills. And as my sister attended on a week-by-week basis, I realised that I could see she was really benefiting from positive role modelling and was actually able to do that positive risk-taking, which I could see that she hasn't been able to do that kind of positive risk-taking. So it was really lovely to see that there are people out there who want to have the learning disabled and autistic community as part of what's happening in everyday life, that they're not just in residential care and we'll give them something lovely to do, go shopping every day. It's not all about that. It's about doing something very different and really believing that people can do something and have a choice in that. It doesn't have to be you've got to do a jigsaw every day. And I'll happily say that to anybody, actually, because I feel that some of the day service that I've personally experienced through my sister, it has been a bit like that. And I can see that sometimes she's regressed when she's attended day services that haven't been opening her eyes up to doing something a bit different. So I suppose for me, I'm very much about equal opportunities, about everybody having a chance to experience work and what work brings as well. That's really important to me, because I know that every job I've done, even if I've not been particularly interested in the different types of work that you do growing up, you don't always go into your favourite career when you leave school, do you? What's been really important to me is the friendships that you make around work when you have it, about having an income, which means that you can go on holiday or you can go to the pub with your mates, and about the learning that you have from people you work with. When I worked in councils years ago in housing, I had a lot of colleagues I worked with who were quite a bit older than me, but I learned a lot from them socially and about how you should behave at work and how that's different to having social relationships to work relationships as well. And then Littlegate was open for about 8 months before they started doing supported employment, and they advertised for the first job coach. And I didn't really know what that looked like or what that might be, but I applied for it and got it. I joined the team when it was very small and we were just starting to talk to employers about creating work placements for the guys that were attending Littlegate for work training. I really started with having an induction about understanding what Littlegate was, but because it was so new, the project still, was go out and speak to employers, see if you can create some work placement. In my first week, I think I started with one of the work trainees in a placement on her induction. So I did training alongside her, and I instantly knew I really enjoyed kind of bringing together a work trainee and an employer, because I really enjoyed that relationship making and networking. But the biggest part of it was about encouraging the work trainee to do that, so that they're the ones that flourished. And then the job coach steps back and is really like that shadow, supporting, stepping in when the employer needs you and stepping in when that work trainee needs you. And I really enjoyed kind of making that relationship really flourish. So I was a job coach for about a year, and then I was asked to be a lead job coach as the team got a bit bigger, and then became head of supported employment. And then in 2019, the CEO at Littlegate decided she was going to step down and do something else. And I applied for chief exec role and fortunately got it. So I became chief exec January 2020, so just before the pandemic. And yeah, that was an incredible learning journey. I had to quickly learn how to really do really amazing crisis management because obviously of what came with that pandemic. But I love my job. I work with really incredible, passionate staff because we've got such a clear purpose. Littlegate, when it first started, it's Claire and David are a couple who have 3 children, and one of them is called Evie, and she has a learning disability. And they started Littlegate because they were looking across the county to see what would the options be for their daughter Evie once she left school. And they had real concerns that actually, once you get to 16, there wasn't at that point a lot of opportunity being talked about going into employment. So Claire and David looked at models of care farms across the country, and it just so happened that David's mum was living on a disused farm, and they asked her if they could start a small project, which obviously is not a small project anymore. It started quite small, was only open 2 days a week 11 years ago, and had about 8 adults with learning disabilities coming there. And they wanted to, at the time, set up different areas so people had to have work skills that could be transferable. So for about a year, they were open 2 days a week and built up to opening 4 days a week. So it started very much people thinking it was a day service, but then the trustees started to talk about actually what happens to these people? We can't keep them here forever. What's going to happen next? So they said, let's go and start talking to employers out in the local community to see if we can do some work placements with them. And it was quite brave. It was about not work experience. It was about paid work placements, first of all. The 2 of us went out and started to talk to employers in the local community. As Littlegate grew throughout those times, the supported employment team got much bigger. The farm was open 5 days a week, and it was hosting up to 22 people a day. So some people were coming 1 day a week, some people were coming 2. And the people who work with those work trainees on the farm were assessing them for their skills. So talking to them about aspirations. What kind of job might you like to do? What skills have you got? What's transferable for working with employers in the local community? The supported employment team did a lot of work with the British Association of Supported Employment, learning about that base model, about supported employment, about matching people's skills and aspirations with what could be either job carved or job created or jobs that were available. So that's grown throughout the years, and we've worked with over 150 employers since Littlegate has started, creating those routes to employment. And then 5 years after Littlegate started, we looked into other routes of employment. We could see apprenticeships were being talked about a lot by the government and being promoted with employers. So we thought we'd do a pilot, and we did that with care homes, because where we are, there are a lot of care homes. So we did a pilot of 4 young people, and we set up an apprenticeship program. So that's separate to the farm training program. Those young people did really well. So we applied for funding, and incredibly, we got a 5-year Reaching Communities program for the National Lottery to roll out this apprenticeship program for 10 young people a year. So that was running alongside our farm training program as well. Hence, we had to get in touch with more employers and really build up that network to ensure that we were able to create enough work placements. I think the magic bit for us to talk about as well is about what a job coach delivers. All of our job coaches have specific training. Most of them will go through training which is delivered by the British Association of Supported Employment, so we're following their model really closely. They also, all of them, do training in systematic instruction. So we call that TSI training, which is, I'm not sure if you've talked about that previously. It's something that was developed by Dr. Mark Gold in the 1970s and has been shared and developed to lots of supported employment programs, a specific way of supporting people so that they can become independent in a job. And all of our job coaches use that when they're working specifically with employers. We also have an employer training program. So when we work with an employer before we go in, we will deliver training to a place of employment before we go in with a job coach. That makes things so much smoother. We can talk to a team before somebody's placed with them. They understand what the role of a job coach is, that they're not actually an extra member of staff. They're there to support and ensure that that work trainee flourishes rather than being someone else that can come and do some work at the same time. And as we've been assessing what is delivered in our county, there are other organisations delivering supported employment. We've been spending a lot of time connecting with others, realising that it's better that if everyone's working together and mapping out those services, because if we're all working in isolation, what are we all going to learn and know? And also, how do we best serve those parents and carers? So another thing that Littlegate has developed and is now commissioned to run is an East Sussex Supported Employment Forum. And we bring together all the local providers who are delivering supported employment. It also includes our local authority. So we've got children's services come to that, adult services. It's quite unusual to get both of them around the table at the same time, which is very positive. We have assessment and planning come to that. We've got the careers hub attends, and lots of local special schools and colleges will also come and attend. So we're all mapping out together journeys. So that forum has been vital to how we're sharing that supported employment story out with everybody, and everyone talking about best practice for how you engage with an employer, how do you keep with an employer, how do you support someone when something's not going quite well. And because of that, we have learnt about the government contract called Internships Work, where the government's wanted to double the number of supported internships that are being delivered across the country, which is a very aspirational target. Littlegate decided to do a pilot of supported internships, partnering with a local education provider, a local college that we have a really good relationship with, just to test it out and see how it works. And then we did an assessment of that. And at the end of that year, it was a really positive pilot, positive from all angles, with the education provider, with us, and with the young people that went through that, and the parents and carers and employers who were part of it, that we decided that we were going to run supported internships. But actually, when we looked at the funding of that, it was much better for Littlegate to actually become an education provider and manage all of it ourselves. So we've gone through the process with the Department of Education and have recently received our contract to be able to deliver supported internships. So Littlegate are going to be opening their next employment route. Officially in September, we've got our college opening with 20 students. So that's our next part of our programme that we're delivering. So everything we do, everything Littlegate is about, our core purpose is gaining paid employment for the people that we serve. So we're serving people from the age of 8 right up to the oldest person we got their first job. They were 56, which we're really proud of. It means we're not just being specific about one age. We're looking at that whole journey of people and offering a choice to people who might have been in day service 5 days a week for a very long time, wanting to come out of that a little bit so that they can go and have an employment opportunity. Everything is very person-centred. right from assessing with somebody about what their aspirations are, talking about what their experience is. And if they want to say, for example, they might want to be an astronaut, we might not be able to work with NASA and get someone a job as an astronaut. But actually really thinking about, why do you want to be an astronaut? What's your skills? What interests you about that? And can we think, is there another job that might be able to provide that same kind of satisfaction? I always talk about magic bits about Littlegate. And I think for us, the magic bit is how our job coaches are incredible people at networking and relationship management, but always putting that work trainee first, whether it's ensuring that they're able to travel independently, they can manage their own money independently if they're able to, but supporting a parent and carer on that journey, because I think that's really hard for parents and carers as well, because they've had to work so hard to get all of the correct support for their person that we are bringing them on the journey and not leaving them behind. I can see how hard that journey is for people. As a parent and carer, you can't be left behind in that. You need that support through that. Also really valuing the other part of our Littlegate service, having that Young Ranger Children's Project. It did start off most definitely as a respite programme, but actually they're our future customers. So when I hear a young person in that respite programme saying, I want to come to the farm one day and I want to work in the animal team, and then I want to go on and want to have a different job like that person there, they'll actually name people that they want to follow in the same footsteps. For us to be able to have that happen is really wonderful and very promising, I think. Being part of BASE has been really helpful because we've been able to attend conferences and local and national meetings to check in with good practice. And it's really helped us reflect on our service if we thought, actually, we're not doing that quite well enough, really looking at how we can improve. Our parents and carers are really good about being really honest about the service we deliver. And we're really, even when that might be tough sometimes, we're very grateful for that, because actually it's very easy to look inwards, isn't it? And think we're doing this really well, we're achieving a target that we might have been set by our trustees or set ourselves. But actually, if the people we're serving are saying, you're not doing this quite the way I need you to, then it's really important that we listen to that. We've got parents and carers that support us and give us feedback, but we've also got a work trainee forum where the work trainees also give us feedback about our service. And it's about having their voice. We got to a point where we realised we were getting people jobs, but they were still remaining at the farm. We created what was called the Jobs Forum. And so people graduated from the farm, they would still be in their role, in their paid employment opportunity. So they wouldn't attend the farm at all. They could come to a service that was once a week. They could still remain connected with some of the other people that they would have attended the farm with. And we got some of our job coaches to start delivering a life skills course. So really looking at, you've got your job, what's everything else looking like around that? So about relationships, it might be about, do I want a different job? Do I want to go somewhere else and do a few more hours? Can I give back to my community? What else can I do if I'm working, but I want to do something else as well? Carrying on with that holistic service, providing support if someone wants to move into supported living or independent living. So we've got like this really definite move on programme.
Littlegate is a great example of how the opportunities for employment are slowly getting better for our young people. I think this is true wherever you live, but it does come back to sharing, because the reality is that this is just one project in one part of the world, but they're sharing what they know, and those that they share with will share as well, and that can only be a good thing. Tune in next week for part 2 of this episode, where we continue the discussion and also talk about how to get more employers involved so that there's even more opportunities for our young people to get into paid work. I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope that the stories and the solutions shared on here help you as you support your young person to create their future. And if you know anyone who would find the ideas useful, please share the podcast with them. Of course, if you want to, you can leave a review, because that is another way families who need this information can find it more easily. This show is created as part of Red Giraffe Solutions. To find out what the Red Giraffe is all about, visit redgiraffesolutions.com, where you'll find more resources around daily living, relationships, purpose and financial security. I'm at Deborah Caldo on Instagram and Facebook. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to have a conversation with you on any of those. Bye for now.